I wouldn't tell you what happened. None of your business. A little too personal. You can take that off there. We don't need that up there now. Thanks. That's the conclusion. I don't want them to have all the answers before I tell them what the answers are. We talked last week about, what's that? It took so long. We're at the end. Let's take an offering. If it's big, I can be done. No, never. The next 20 minutes belong to me. The only thing I have dominion over all week long. For 20 minutes, they listen to me. The rest of the week is a wash. We talked about last week about right action. Taking right action in your life. It's the energy behind what you do. Taking right action, allowing that energy that comes forth through you. We said it's not about right result as much as it is about the intention behind what you do, why you do it. And that when we're taking right action, there's a kind of readiness that opens up in our lives. Things that we didn't see, all of a sudden we see. And while we're more present and mindful of where our body is in any one moment, we can be aware of those gaps, those openings that are present between the end of one thought and the beginning of the next. The end of one event in our life and the beginning of a new event. Those gaps open up almost magically, without a lot of effort. We said that trying to make it happen is the exact opposite of allowing it to happen through you. Trying to be spiritual, trying to live my vision, trying to pray, trying to meditate. We make something very hard that's really meant to be quite easy when we're aware of what the process is. In this wonderful statement here in this book, Ann Dillard talks about those gaps, those openings that happen in our life. The gaps are the thing. The gaps are spirit's one home. The altitudes and latitudes so dazzling space and clean that spirit can discover itself like a once blind man unbound. The gaps are the clefts in the rock where you cower to see the back parts of God. They are the fissures between the mountains and cells the wind lances through, the icy, narrowing fjords, splitting the cliffs of mystery. Isn't that beautiful writing? Go up into the gaps so you can find them. They shift and they vanish too. Stalk the gaps. Squeak into the gap in the soil, turn and unlock. More than a maple, what you'll find is a whole universe. Fall into the gap. Into the gap, the opening that's present in your life. And I think if you take a look at your life and are honest with it, you'll see there were magical moments when things just opened up for you. And I want to add another concept to that, which comes from Robert Johnson. It's the idea that inside the gap, there is a slender thread of energy. It's your divine invitation from the beloved. It's very subtle now. You can't yank at it. You can't force it. It's just so subtle. It's that slender thread that you move into and you find yourself at the right place, at the right time, with the right people, doing what's yours to do. It's very slender and it's very subtle. You can't force your way into it. You can't fight your way into it. You can't think your way into it. You can allow it to be present when you're most quiet and listening with your whole being to that slender thread of energy. I'm looking for an apartment. My third year of business school at the University of Miami. And I go down the street and there's Miller Lake Apartments and a slender thread was thrown out to me and it said, this is where you're supposed to be next. So I get an apartment there. A week later, I'm flying on a flight, supposedly coming home from New York to come back to Miami. And I'm on the phone with the person confirming my flight. And she goes, well, you're all confirmed on the L-1011 jumbo jet, direct flight. However, there is another flight you can get on that'll stop over one time, and it'll take you longer to get there. Would you like to go on that flight instead? And the slender thread pulled out and said, this is what you're supposed to step into. The other plane, the one I was supposed to be on, crashed in the Everglades with 250 students from the University of Miami on it. I was supposed to be on that flight. Slender threads. I'm looking out my window and I'm noticing at my Miller Lake apartment this beautiful being in a yellow bikini. And I'm thinking, oh brah. What is her name? Her name is Maureen. She has a 3.5-year-old daughter. Boom, the slender thread. I'm looking across the street. We know the Science of Mind Church. That's where you begin your spiritual practice. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? Those slender threads, those openings that you've walked into in your life that have led you where you're supposed to be. Don't work for the family business anymore, friend. Go to the farm in Tennessee. Hang out with some hippies for 6 months. That's the slender thread. Now move to Boulder, Colorado. Why am I in Boulder, Colorado? Because you're supposed to meet Jack Rovelin and the church at Boulder, and you're going to be a unity minister. Slender threads. I send my little resume off. I flunked the grammar test 3 times. I could have let any one of those stop me, but the slender thread said, this is where you're supposed to be, and this is what you're supposed to be doing. Those unseen forces that are at work in your life. To develop a relationship with them. That's what today's talk is about. How to be more aware of those moments in your life that open up and a thread of energy gets thrown out and you pull yourself into what your next step is. You're almost pulled by it. Oh, it's both. It's not just pulling it in, it's being pulled by it. But it's very subtle. You see how sweet it is? It's just right there. And you're present for it. Because you're working with being mindful in your body, in the moment, to where you are. Because it takes that kind of subtlety to sense those slender, tender threads, those energies. And that slender thread of energy has made up who you are. When you bundle them all together, it becomes the person I am today. You take all those slender threads and it makes Maureen who she is today. All the different ways that you have been guided in your life. People say, well, I don't know if I'm being guided in my life or not. I'm not so sure. Take a look at your life. Make it an assignment this week. Take a look at all the moments where you were open to the slender thread and you went in the direction it was calling you and pulling you towards. Those moments are your birthright. They're the way in which the Spirit speaks to you. You don't force it. You allow it to open in you. And you do your part. It doesn't mean you don't do anything. Please don't hear that. Your ego has a role. That separate self, it has a role. Its role is to be the servant of the slender thread. The ego is a tool of awareness, an organ of awareness. It has a responsibility. It means, get a job. It means take care of your house. It means pay your bills. It means rake the leaves. It has an assignment. But it's not meant to be the master. It's meant to be the servant. And when the ego is the chief organ of awareness, it serves you well. And then you can be open to whatever it is that is yours to do now in this moment. The ego has a function. It needs to have a role. You're not going to get rid of your ego. Your E will not go. The E must go. Remember when the gurus came? Your E must go. E must go. How many egos have gone and left? I'm the same ego I was 40 years ago when I began this process and practice. However, it's no longer ruling my life. I've turned myself over to listening more and more to the slender threads of what it is I am to do next, feeling in my body what it feels like to be guided by that slender thread, rather than pushing my own agenda about how things should be. You'll spend the rest of your life practicing this. But it is a worthy practice when you begin to see the fruits of the results of what it brings to you. So, the ego has a function. It has a purpose. It gathers information. When you have something going on, get all the information you can about this, whatever it might be. We have been researching cell phones for 2 years, knowing that it was time for us to get rid of our flip Motorola cell phones. It's just time to move into the 21st century. So we made a list. All the different things from all the different companies and all the different cell phones and all the different options and what the plans cost. But what we really wanted was an iPhone. They cost as much money as a new car. Well, a new car for us, which is a used car. Wow, it's a lot of money. But finally it happened. We were ready. We did all we could to gather all the information we could. At the level of our ego, we gathered all the information. And then it was time to let go and let God. So the way it happened for us was both our old cell phones broke in 1 week's time. Plop, they both blew up and smoke coming out of them, and they both said, we're tired, it's been 20 years, we're done. It's time for something new. Within a matter of hours, we went, well, if we really want to get an iPhone, we should get an iPhone. Oh, isn't there a plan that they have at AT&T that if we join our kids' plan, we can get an iPhone, a $600 iPhone for 99 bucks a piece. And boom, within 2 hours, we had what we needed, and we were in the new way, the truth and the light of communicating now with our iPhone. We now have one, of course. I'd never leave home without it. I love it. However, by the way, it does have an off button. Don't be fooled. I've shut it off for hours and hours at a time. You don't need to be ruled by this. You don't. Or fooled by it. It's just a device for helping you stay in communication with yourself and other people. The way to do that. We looked at 90 houses before we found our house in Wilmington. 90 houses. Checklist of this house, that house, pro, con. And then finally, that 90th house, we walked in the front yard and it threw out a slender thread and said, "You are home. This is your new house." Within 1 week, we bought it. We were the only people to look at that house. That's the way it works. You do your work. People think, well, I don't do anything. I'm just going to sit around and be in the flow of God, have me a bud, and hang out. And I'm just chilling, dude. I don't have to do anything, dude. Yes, you do. You have to have a will that you use. Your ego is not bad or good. It just cannot be the master. So you make a list. Maybe that'll be finish getting that degree. For you, maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe it'll be to take that test. Or maybe it'll be to take a job that isn't your perfect job, or just get in the flow of working. Maybe that's what's yours to do. Maybe what's yours to do is get out of that dysfunctional relationship that you've been in for years. Stop fooling yourself to thinking it's going to go anywhere, and give it up. And ask friends to help you do that. That's the role the ego plays. And then at a certain point, you surrender that to the greater will of the presence that's got this great opening waiting for you to step into. Do you feel it? It's right there. It's that easy when it's happening. How do you know when it's happening? Napoleon Hill, who wrote the book called Think and Grow Rich, he was asked about the realms of wealth. How does it work? What realms of wealth? He said, well, the first and most important wealth is peace of mind. Peace of mind. Peace of mind. The second most important is having a healthy body. Isn't it good to have a healthy body? It's good to have a healthy body. The third is good relationships, right relationships. And the fourth is material wealth. He's putting the slender thread of the most important thing first, which is peace of mind. So how do I know when I'm following God's will or not? People say that to me all the time. How do I know if it's just my ego? You guys don't believe in the Word of God as the only Word of God, so there's no final authority. So what am I supposed to trust in? Trust in yourself, your higher self. Trust in the God in you, your hope of glory. You trust in that, but you're going to have to develop a relationship with it. It's not just going to be given to you. You have to allow it to come through you. It's already there, but we're so asleep. So when people ask me that question, I say, well, usually when I'm following a slender thread, I feel peaceful. I feel calm. I'm smiling. I feel what I like to call the Diksha rush, or in Hawaiian, the chicken skin. That little tingling sensation that says you are going in the right direction. Keep it up. This is a slender thread. This has more information and more intelligence than your tiny ego all by itself. Do you feel that? And you know when you're not. I'm in my greatest teaching place, the YMCA. Come on, everybody, let's do YMCA. I had to get stock in that thing the way I talk about it all the time. I think I've gotten 20 new members to come to that place. But I'm in the hot tub, and you know the tub has got the one heavenly jet. That's the strong jet that's in the hot tub. I told you about that. It was a whole 2-hour talk on that. God bless us for all of you putting up with this. And it's this heavenly jet. It's right there, and there's a woman on the heavenly jet. And she's there, and I'm there, and I've got lots of time. I've got 2-3 hours of time. It's my day off. It's Monday. Everything's real easy. I can be here forever. But she's on the jet for about 10 minutes, and then she's on the jet for 15 minutes, and then she's changing body positions, and she's on it for 20 minutes, and then she's on it for 25 minutes, and I'm sitting there thinking, are you ever going to get off of that jet? Don't you know about hot tub etiquette? I wasn't being a Jedi master at that point. Please understand that. And so I'm in resistance. I notice I'm resisting the fact that she's hogging the best jet in the tub. So I get to look at that in me. Oh, resistance. There, I know what that feels like. It's resistance. Bring awareness to it. You know what I'm talking about? I'm contracting right now. I'm reacting. I'm not feeling the warmth all around me and the relaxed energy of being in the hot tub. I'm feeling judgment for this person who's just taking too long in the hot tub on my jet. I'm watching it. Benny and the Jets, you know how you get stuck in that place? And so I'm watching it, I'm bringing awareness to it, and all of a sudden she gets off the jet. So I figured, my reward for releasing and letting us go. No, then she does her calves for 15 minutes while she's sitting on the side of the tub. And by then, I am hooked. You know when you get hooked and you're stuck
I'm in my own little egoic world now, and now the ego is being used for its opposite function. It's not gathering information, it's crucifying and judging somebody else. And who's getting crucified and judged in that moment? Who? You, me, us. So I go home, and the otter came in, which is, you need more devices. You buy something, and you got to get devices to protect it. It's never ending. You buy a house plant, and you got to water the house plant. You get a dog, and then you got to clean up after the dog. Everything you buy has a price. So I've got to get this $40 cover for it, and that slim thing you put on. It's really kind of tricky to get on. And now I'm caught. I know I am, because I come home and Maureen goes, I put mine on, and I don't think I put it on right. I said, well, I'm just going to put mine on by myself. Don't tell me what to do. So I'll do it myself, because you're not just going, oh, you certainly had a relaxing time at the gym. My God, what's the matter with you? There's nothing wrong with me. I'm putting this on by myself. What I should have done is stepped away and not done it. So I put mine on. Don't tell me what to do. I can do it. I'm sliding it on like this. And of course, what I end up with is a bubble on my screen on my cell phone. It's a new app now. It's called the Bubble of Impatience. And I'm not taking it off. I want that bubble to be my reminder of what happens when I forget, when I'm impatient. I want to look at it. It's not on now, but there it is. It's showing me how I've taken this clear, beautiful screen and I put a bubble on it. What's your bubble? That you put on the screen of your life. It's a good application for your awakening. It's reminding you to come back home again. You can push it and go, oh look, there's impatience again. I hope that bubble never comes off. I don't even want to squeeze it out. I want to look at it and go, oh, there's impatience again. I want to be reminded of that truth of what I choose to keep doing to myself. It's not being done to me, it's being done through me. It's happening through me. And of course, Maureen discovered how to take hers off, and hers is perfect, and I've got the bubble on the end of my phone. I don't care. I want to awaken to who I am. Don't you? Isn't that what we're here for? So how do you know? Well, you let the ego take this intended role. You let it gather information. You let it be an organ of awareness, not an organ of decision making. You get everything you can. You do everything that's yours to do. You have your yes and you have your no. And then you surrender to the will of something much greater. And then you're aware of the slender thread that moves you in your next direction. So let's take a look at our lesson summation for a moment. See if I covered anything I was going to. Slender threads. Slender threads put forth the notion that our existence is somehow inspired, guided, and even managed by unseen forces outside our normal control. Slender threads are working together to bring coherence and continuity to our lives. Over time, they weave a remarkable tapestry. That's why we say there's only one presence and one power in my life and in the universe. God who is good, omnipotent. Because the slender threads will never deceive you. They hold so much more information than what you can ever know by yourself. Next one. These threads show up as synchronistic moments. Being at a particular place at just the right time. Meeting someone who steers you in an unforeseen direction. Walking in the Boulder church, my first time at Unity of Boulder, a woman named Lucy is greeting people. She grabs me and says, this is where you're supposed to be, and this is what you're supposed to be doing. Slender threads. Don't take that flight, go on this flight. Slender threads. Say yes to this, say no to that. Slender threads. God's always talking to you, throwing out these possibilities, these unexpected meetings. The unexpected appearance of work or money or inspiration. How many have ever had that? Unexpected appearance of work or inspiration or money just when you need it most. Slender threads possess a greater intelligence and wisdom than our scrambling egos can ever attain. In good times and bad times, one slender thread after another has seen us through. And together, these threads shape who it is that we are. Yeah? That's what we're here for. I want to end with a really powerful Buddha-filled story about the path and our work that we've talked about today. It seems that once there was a man from heaven sojourning on the face of the earth. He was walking along when he came across a yogi sitting by the roadside. The yogi had meditated for 30 years with such austerity that birds had built a nest in his hair and his right arm was encased in a beehive. The yogi sensed the presence of the enlightened one. So he came out of his meditation and said, "Oh, man from heaven, please inquire for me how long before my liberation from these veiled tears." The man from heaven agreed to do this, and the yogi went back into his meditation. The enlightened one walked on, and he found a young man dancing under a banyan tree. And he inquired of the young man, "Tell me, sir, what are you dancing for?" And he said, "I'm dancing for my liberation." And the young man then replied, "Could you do me a favor? When you return to heaven, will you ask them how long it will be before I'm liberated?" And the man from heaven agreed to do this. Some years later, the man from heaven returned to the face of the earth and went to discharge his duties. First he went to the old yogi and said, "I have inquired in heaven, and you will be liberated in 7 more incarnations." And you know this feeling. The man just groaned. So long, so long. How can I endure this for 7 more incarnations? This is the voice of heaven, and he walked away. Next, he came upon the man who was still dancing under the banyan tree. The dancing man spotted the man from heaven, didn't even lose a step, and said, "How long?" And he said, "I've inquired of heaven, and you will be liberated in as many incarnations as this banyan tree has leaves." And the young man yelped with joy, "What, so soon?" It's both. It's both. It's both. There are times when I'm sitting underneath the tree and there seems like there's a nest growing on my head and the bees are building nests around me and I'm trying really hard to get it. You know that part. Some days are like that. And then there's the yogi spinning under the tree days where I'm saying, "What's so long? What a great day. It's wonderful to be alive." And what I've noticed, you can't lust after one or the other because life in this body is going to be both. Yeah, it's going to be both. Not one or the other, but both. You don't get rid of the ego. You integrate it into your sweet, wonderful, Buddha-filled life, and you begin to live each day as an opening just opens up. One more. It's Christmas preparation time at the Fitch's house. And my 7-year-old granddaughter is still into the magic of Christmas. Anybody have any grandkids or kids who are still into the magic of Christmas? Yes? I can't hear you. What?
There's kids in here. There are kids here.
There are kids in here. I'll make it a good story. And one of the magic moments of Christmas for all of your kids is, do you know about the elf on the shelf called Henry? Anybody know about the elf on the shelf called Henry? It's a wonderful little thing. And on Friday, the elf on the shelf shows up at the Fitch house. And I'm sleeping on a blow-up mat in the living room on the mantle in the fireplace, and it's early in the morning now, and I hear this little tippy-toeing of steps, and it's Emerson. She's coming in, she's looking for the magic opening, the slender thread of Henry the elf on the shelf. And it turns out that the elf on the shelf is right there above where my bed is. He's on this little deer sitting up there. And she goes, "Oh, Papa, you are so lucky. The elf on the shelf has been looking at you while you were sleeping all night. You know what a great gift and a blessing that is?" And I'm thinking, it doesn't get any better than this. I'm not in a rush to end this kind of energy. Are you? Those kinds of moments will be given to you when you follow the slender thread that awakens you. And when you do that, you do it not just for yourself. You become the slender thread that helps pull somebody else in to these magnificent teachings. And that's why we're here. Practice well, practice deeply, not just for yourself, but for the benefit of all beings. Namaste.